The observation chamber hummed with the low vibration of distant engines, a sound Aaron Vex had grown accustomed to during his 6 weeks on Kelthra Prime. The curved windows displayed the planet's violet atmosphere, swirling with storms that never seemed to end. He stood alone, or so he thought, his reflection ghostly against the cosmic backdrop. Finally alone! The voice came from the shadows, soft as rainfall on stone. Aaron turned to find Naira Solten stepping into the dim light. The Kelthran woman moved with the fluid grace of her people, her silver-tinted skin catching the faint luminescence from the control panels. Her dark eyes, larger than human eyes, with flecks of amber that seemed to glow, fixed on him with an intensity that made his breath catch. "Naira!" He tried to keep his voice steady. "I thought you were at the cultural exchange." "I left early." She moved closer, each step deliberate. "I needed to speak with you. Privately." During the weeks of negotiations, Aaron had felt her watching him. At council meetings, during diplomatic dinners, across crowded reception halls, her gaze always found him. They'd shared polite conversations, professional exchanges, nothing more. But beneath every word, he'd sensed something unspoken, a current of meaning he couldn't quite grasp. "The talks are going well," he offered, unsure why his diplomatic training suddenly felt inadequate. "Ambassador Keelan seems optimistic about." "The talks are a performance." Naira stopped an arm's length away. This close, he could see the faint bioluminescent patterns beneath her skin, pulsing slowly like a second heartbeat. "Theater for those who want to believe peace is possible through words alone." Aaron's jaw tightened. "Then why have I spent 6 weeks? Because you're human. Because your presence here means something my people can't say aloud." She glanced toward the door, her expression tightening. "Aaron, war is coming. Not from outside, from within. The sovereignty faction grows stronger every day. They want isolation, they want conflict, and they have half the council convinced that humanity is the enemy. That's why I'm here. To prove we're not. Your presence isn't enough." Naira's hand moved to his arm, her touch light but electrifying. The Keltheran ran warmer than humans, and he could feel the heat of her palm through his sleeve. They need more than a diplomatic smile. They need to see courage. They need disruption. "What are you asking me?" "In 3 days, the full council convenes. Emergency session. The sovereignty will present evidence, fabricated evidence, that Earth is planning a military expansion into our sector. They'll call for immediate defensive measures." "Meaning war." Aaron's stomach dropped. "That's insane. We have no such plans." "I know." Her fingers tightened on his arm. "But I can't stop them alone. No Keltheran can publicly oppose the sovereignty without being branded a traitor. We're too few, too fractured." Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I need you to stand with me." The implications crashed over Aaron like a wave. "Stand with you?" "Naira, I'm an envoy. I can observe council proceedings, but I can't vote. I can't." "You can speak." Her amber-flecked eyes burned with urgency. "During open testimony, you can present counter-evidence. Challenge their lies directly. That would violate every diplomatic protocol. The council would see it as interference. Earth Command would disavow me instantly." "I know what I'm asking." Naira's other hand rose to his chest, resting over his heart. Even through his uniform, her warmth penetrated. "I'm asking you to risk everything. Your career, your safety, possibly your life." Aaron stared at her, his mind racing. He'd been sent here as a bridge builder, not a revolutionary. His orders were clear. Observe, facilitate, maintain neutrality. What Naira proposed was the opposite of everything he'd been trained to do. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "You barely know me." Something shifted in her expression. Vulnerability replacing the strategic mask she'd worn for weeks. "I've watched you, Aaron. The way you listen to people, even those who hate you. The way you refuse to simplify what's complex. The way you look at my world like it's worth saving. Her hand slid from his chest to his face, her thumb tracing his cheekbone. You're not like the others Earth has sent. You actually care. The touch sent electricity through his nerves. In Kelthran culture, face-touching was intimate, reserved for family and lovers. His diplomatic briefings had been explicit about that. She knew exactly what she was doing. Naira, I know it's manipulative. Her voice cracked slightly. Using attraction, using connection. But I'm desperate. My people are about to make a catastrophic mistake, and you're the only person who might stop it. I could speak at the council and accomplish nothing, he said, though he hadn't pulled away from her touch. Worse, I could make things worse. You could. She nodded slowly. Or you could prevent a war. Those are the only two outcomes left. The observation chamber suddenly felt too small, too warm. Aaron became acutely aware of their proximity, the rise and fall of her breathing, the faint scent of her skin. Something like ozone and honey. His training screamed at him to step back, to think clearly, to remember his mission parameters. Instead, he covered her hand with his own, holding it against his face. If I do this, he said carefully, I need to know you're certain that this isn't just strategy, that when the council turns on both of us, because they will, you won't leave me standing alone. Naira's expression softened. Her free hand moved to the back of his neck, fingers tangling in his hair. I have thought of little else for 3 weeks. Every scenario, every consequence. I've lain awake calculating what you might say, what they might do, whether you'd be brave enough or foolish enough to help me. And I realized I wasn't just planning. I was hoping. She drew him closer, until their foreheads nearly touched. Is that what you need to hear? That this matters beyond politics? That I've memorized the way you move through rooms? The sound of your laugh when you think no one important is listening? His pulse hammered. Naira! Tell me no, Aaron. Tell me you won't do it, and I'll walk away. I'll find another way, or I'll fail, but I won't burden you further. Aaron's mind warred with itself. Every instinct trained into him at the diplomatic corps screamed danger. Career suicide. Interstellar incident. Court-martial. Yet beneath the fear, something else stirred. A recognition that this moment, this choice, was exactly why he'd joined the corps in the first place. Not to smile politely while worlds burned, but to make the hard choices when it mattered most. What evidence do you have? He asked, not pulling away from her touch. To counter their claims? Hope flashed across Naira's face. Communications logs. The fabricated intelligence has metadata inconsistencies. I have 3 witnesses willing to testify, privately, to you, about how the sovereignty doctored the files, but without someone of your standing to present it, their testimony is meaningless. They disappear before reaching the council floor. You're asking me to accuse council members of treason. I'm asking you to tell the truth. Her thumb brushed his lower lip, and his breath hitched. I'm asking you to be brave. The touch ignited something primal in him. He knew he should think clearly, should consider all angles, should consult with Earth Command. But standing in the half-light of the observation chamber, with Naira's warmth pressed against him and her eyes reflecting starlight, clarity felt overrated. I'll need access to those witnesses. Tonight. Done. And I'll need you to understand something. He caught her wrist gently, holding her hand against his face. I'm not doing this because you touched me. I'm not doing it because I'm attracted to you, though I am. I'm doing it because it's right. Because if I don't, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I could have prevented a war. Naira's expression transformed. Relief, gratitude, and something deeper all mixing together. I understand. Do you? He turned his head slightly, pressing his lips to her palm. A gesture that meant promise-keeping in Keltheran culture. Because once I do this, everything changes. For both of us. There's no walking back from it. I know. She moved closer still, her body nearly against his. I've known since the moment I decided to come here tonight that I was asking you to cross a line we can never uncross. The air between them felt charged, heavy with possibility and danger in equal measure. Erin's hand moved to her waist, feeling the subtle differences in her physiology. The slight ridge of her spine, the warmth that radiated from her core. Keltheran body temperature ran several degrees hotter than human, an adaptation to their cooler homeworld. Show me the evidence, he said quietly. All of it. Then I'll decide exactly how to present it. My quarters. 1 hour. Come through the auxiliary corridors. The sovereignty has eyes everywhere. This is madness. Yes. Naira's smile was sad and beautiful. The best kind. She should have pulled away then, should have maintained professional distance now that she'd secured his agreement. Instead, she leaned in, her lips brushing his in a kiss that was brief but searingly intense. It tasted of desperation and hope, and the edge of something that might have been love under different circumstances. When she pulled back, Erin's heart was racing. 1 hour, she repeated, and then she was moving toward the door, leaving him alone in the observation chamber with the violet storms and the weight of what he'd just promised. Erin touched his lips, still feeling the heat of her kiss. He'd come to Kelthera Prime to build bridges. Instead, he was about to burn them all down. He just hoped something better could be built from the ashes. Naira's quarters occupied a corner of the diplomatic tower, overlooking the Keltheran capital's glittering expanse. When Erin arrived, precisely 1 hour later, via the auxiliary corridors as instructed, she opened the door before he could knock, pulling him inside quickly. Were you followed? No. I took precautions. He glanced around the space. Unlike the sterile diplomatic suites, Naira's room reflected personal touches. Woven tapestries depicting Keltheran history, bioluminescent plants that pulsed with soft blue light, and a workstation covered in data tablets and projection devices. Good. She moved to the workstation, her movements efficient now, all business. The vulnerability from the observation chamber had been replaced by tactical focus. The witnesses are waiting in a secure channel. You'll need to interview them separately. They can't know each other's identities. For the next 2 hours, Erin did exactly that. 3 Keltheran, a data analyst, a council staffer, and a communications technician. Each told the same story with different details. The sovereignty faction had manufactured intelligence suggesting Earth military buildups. They'd altered transmission logs, falsified reconnaissance data, and planted false testimony. The goal was simple: create justification for immediate military action against human space. Between interviews, Erin drafted his testimony, his hands flying across his personal tablet. Naira worked beside him, occasionally reaching over to correct a Keltheran term or refine a political nuance. Each time their hands touched, the air seemed to spark. "You're very good at this," she said quietly during a break, watching him work. "At what? Political suicide? At seeing through complexity. At knowing what matters." She set down her tablet, turning to face him fully. The bioluminescent plants cast shifting patterns across her silver skin. "Most humans who come here see us as exotic puzzles to solve. You see us as people." Erin met her gaze. "Maybe that's because you've been treating me as more than a political tool. Haven't I, though?" Her voice carried self-recrimination. "I approached you in that chamber knowing exactly what I needed. Knowing I had limited time to convince you. Knowing that attraction could be leverage." "Naira, let me finish." She moved closer, her hands finding his. "I did manipulate you. I did use your feelings. But somewhere in the middle of planning this, something changed. I started wanting you to say yes not just for my people, but for—" She trailed off, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing faster, a sign of emotional stress. Aaron stood, closing the distance between them. For us. For the possibility that maybe, after all this chaos, there could be an US. She looked up at him, vulnerable again. I know it's foolish. I know tomorrow everything might fall apart. But I needed you to know that this, she gestured between them, isn't all strategy. His hands cupped her face, thumb tracing the luminescent patterns along her cheekbone. I know. Do you? Her voice was barely a whisper. Instead of answering, he kissed her. This kiss was different from the brief contact in the observation chamber. Deeper, more deliberate, carrying weeks of unspoken tension. Naira responded with equal intensity, her hands sliding under his jacket, fingers tracing the muscles of his back. The heat of her body was intoxicating. Aaron felt her pressed against him, all curves and warmth and alien familiarity. Her lips moved to his jaw, his neck, finding sensitive spots with uncanny precision. We shouldn't, he murmured, even as his hands explored the small of her back. No, we shouldn't, she agreed, her breath hot against his skin. Tomorrow we face the council. Tomorrow we might both be arrested, or worse. Tonight. She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Tonight I want something that's just ours. Not about politics or war or saving worlds. Morning came too quickly. Aaron woke in Naira's bed, her silver-skinned form curved against him, her head resting on his chest. In sleep, her bioluminescent patterns pulsed slowly, peacefully. He memorized the moment, knowing what came next. The council chamber was built for intimidation. Towering ceilings, circular seating that surrounded a central platform, and holographic displays that could project evidence to all corners simultaneously. When Aaron and Naira entered, separately, maintaining the illusion of independence, the air crackled with tension. The sovereignty faction sat together, their leader, Counselor Thane Rictor, watching Aaron with undisguised contempt. Ambassador Keelan, Aaron's official superior, shot him a questioning look that clearly asked, "What are you planning?" Thane's presentation was masterful propaganda. He displayed falsified reconnaissance images, manufactured communications, testimony from witnesses who'd been clearly coached. Each piece of evidence painted Earth as an aggressor, a threat requiring immediate military response. The council members murmured, some nodding, others looking troubled but uncertain. Then came the open testimony period. Aaron stood, his heart pounding. Ambassador Keelan's eyes widened in alarm. Aaron had no authorization to speak. This could trigger a diplomatic catastrophe. I request the floor, Aaron said clearly, his voice carrying through the chamber. Thane's expression flickered with surprise and anger. This is irregular. Envoy Vex has no standing. Open testimony is open to all diplomatic personnel. Naira interjected smoothly, standing as well. Or has the council changed its foundational rules? Thane's jaw clenched, but he couldn't argue. The rule was clear. Aaron stepped onto the central platform. Honored Council, I've reviewed the evidence presented today, and I have counter-evidence you need to see. What followed was methodical destruction. Aaron presented the metadata inconsistencies, the witness testimonies, the proof of manipulation. He spoke calmly, factually, letting the evidence speak for itself. The holographic display showed irrefutable proof that the sovereignty's intelligence had been manufactured. Thane rose, his voice thundering. This is human interference, an attack on Keltheran's sovereignty itself. No. Naira stood beside Aaron on the platform. This is one of your own people, me, working with an ally to prevent you from manipulating this council into war. She faced the assembled counselors. Thane Rictor and his faction have lied to you. They've fabricated evidence to serve their political agenda, risking everything our people have built. The chamber erupted, counselors shouting, factions arguing, Thane calling for their immediate arrest. Ambassador Keelan looked torn between professional horror and reluctant admiration. But then Counselor Myra Celine, one of the oldest members, raised her hand for silence. "We will recess for 3 days," she announced, "during which time an independent investigation will verify these claims. If Envoy Vex and strategist Naira's evidence proves correct, those responsible will face consequences. If their claims prove false," she looked at them with icy finality, "they will both be expelled and tried for disrupting this council." As guards escorted Thane and his closest supporters from the chamber for questioning, Aaron felt Naira's hand find his. They stood together on the platform, knowing they'd crossed every line, broken every rule, and possibly just saved 2 worlds from war. "You were magnificent," she whispered. "We were," he corrected. 3 days later, the investigation confirmed everything. Thane was stripped of his position, his faction dissolved. The council voted, narrowly, for continued cooperation with Earth. Aaron received official reprimands from 3 different authorities and unofficial commendations from twice as many. In the observation chamber where it all began, Aaron and Naira stood together again, watching the violet storms. "What happens now?" she asked. "I'm being reassigned, permanently, to Kelthera Prime." He smiled. "Apparently I'm too diplomatically dangerous to send anywhere else." Naira laughed, the sound like music. "So we changed everything." "We did." He pulled her close. "One quiet agreement at a time." Outside the window, the storms began to clear, revealing Kelthera's 3 moons. A new beginning, born from the courage to stand together when everything was at risk. The smallest agreements, Aaron thought, always carried the greatest consequences, and sometimes the greatest rewards.